When the fax machine was invented, it was a worthless device. It wasn't until there were fax machines that it was useful. Because one fax machine doesn't do anything. You see on Discovery Channel, the ears go up, hey, with this thing I can send a fax. To who? In design and advertising, people who drive BMWs, by the way, are called PDBs, which stands for people dressed in black. And if you see the people in all black with their cheeks sucked in, chances are they drive a BMW. Boy, that took a while. That was like a wave. There was a chuckle and then came the laughter. Here's where the brand gets really interesting. The first one, the most important one, and maybe the hardest one to actually accomplish, is 3 words: all about them. All about them. It doesn't matter what we do if the people we do it for don't get it, because it's all about them. You can go home proud of what you accomplished, pissed off that nobody knows about it, but if your constituency is unaware, then the article in the paper is going to blast you and you're not going to know why, and it's because it's all about them. Paula mentioned that we do work for Nike. I gave this presentation in Beaverton, Oregon, talked about all about them, talked about what we do and how to build brands, which is pretty ironic if you think about it, me telling Nike how to build a brand. And a woman there, the international brand manager, said when I was done, she said, you know, I finally understand what it is we do so well here. She said, because Nike's gross revenues, and this was a few years ago, Nike's gross revenues are $7 billion, with a B, $7 billion a year. She said, but our cost of goods sold is $1 billion. We sell 7, but it only costs us $1 billion to make it. She said, so what I finally understand is that we sell $1 billion of cotton and leather and nylon and rubber, she says, and $6 billion of swoosh. And if we do our job properly, we can sell X dollars, whatever the budget is, of fire and police and animal services, congratulations for your awards, by the way, and zoning and libraries and all those kind of things. And we can sell billions and billions of dollars of the sled. That's where building a brand really proves itself to be true. So let's talk about how Nike did it. Nike was a really smart company. They understood all about them. They went out and they talked to customers. By the way, Nike's only been around since the early 80s, the late 70s. It was a guy selling sneakers out of his trunk. But he talked to customers. And he asked customers why they buy athletic shoes. And customers all said the same thing, every single one. Every one of you in this room knows it. We have to elevate our heart rate to 80% of our maximum rate, right? 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. Has anyone not heard that? Because then I'm on a vacation wherever it is you live, because we hear that everywhere. It's in newspapers, magazines, television, radio, it's on the internet. 3 times a week, 20 minutes a day, 80% of your maximum heart rate, right? And people said, oh, I know that, I know that, I know that. But I don't exercise because. And it was the because that was differentiated, right? So people said, I don't exercise because, and then it was fill in the blank. I don't exercise because I had to get down to Fairchild Gardens and I'm speaking at 9, but I had to get there at 8, so I had to get up early. So I don't exercise because I had to come and set up the cameras, I had to come up and set up the coffee. I don't exercise because I have 2 jobs, I don't exercise because I have 2 kids. Basically what people said was, I don't exercise because I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too rich, I'm too poor, I'm too healthy, I'm too sick. Everybody had a reason. And what did Nike say? 3 words. What's that? That's right. Nike said, just do it. Now, at the same exact time that Nike was using those 3 words, Reebok had an ad campaign. Does anybody remember what their campaign was? Which pretty much makes my point, doesn't it? Reebok had a campaign that said, life is short, Play hard, right. So Nike sounds like my grandfather saying, it's all right, just do it. And Reebok says, you're gonna die, life is short. And before you do, play hard. Get up off your lazy butt and go do something. So you got my grandfather, Papa High, it's all right, just do it. And you have, you're gonna die, and before you die, you better go do something. Is it any wonder why Nike became the largest selling brand of athletic shoes ever? But here's the incredibly ironic part of the power of brands. We all went out and bought Nikes. So Nike did more research to find out what you use your Nikes for. And you know what they found out? 78% of Nikes sold never, ever see athletic competition. Or athletic activity. So what we're just doing, is we're just laying on the couch and we're just hitting the remote control, but we're wearing our Nikes. And you know what? It's okay with them. Because they sold us, all of us, $6 billion a swoosh. And we weren't swooshing, we were clicking. All about them. Point 2. Hearts, then minds. Hearts, then minds. It is critical. It is crucial. It is vital. I don't know other words to use, but it's all of those also. To make an emotional connection with your consumer before you make an intellectual connection. And I see everybody in the audience going, oh, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. But none of us do it. We talk about how many cubic feet of garbage we moved. We talk about how many slips at the marina at Black Point we have. We talk about how many meals we provide. We talk about how many kids we save. Do you remember when you were kids and they collected money for UNICEF? You used to go around Halloween trick-or-treating and you get it. Did you ever read the side of the box? 1 nickel could provide milk for a village of 2,000. Do you remember that? And never, not one of us ever said, excuse me. You know, at farm stores, it's $1.50. I don't understand this. Because the numbers don't matter. You hear about numbers. You hear about the damage. You know, you hear about the damage, like I talked about, the damage we had in Andrew was astounding. Then the damage they have in Mississippi is even more astounding. Does it matter? You can't compare pain. It's the difference between a disaster and a tragedy, right? A tragedy is when something happens to you. A disaster is when it happens to me. The numbers don't matter. What matters is the emotional response. And so if we're doing all these things, how do we get people to care about it here? Stop talking about how many dollars. How about, I love this one. This was the big one we had in the GOB, millage rates. Can I ask you, since you guys work for the county, do any of y'all know what a millage rate is? You do? Oh, damn. Because my taxes keep going up because I get more millage. And I gotta tell you, I've looked in my refrigerator, I've looked in the ground, I have never seen a mill or a millage. I don't know anyone named Miller. I don't get it. But that's what we talk about. Dade County taxes have a lower millage rate than Miami taxes. But I don't know what a millage rate is. I like the word less, since I live in the county, but have I made my point? I think I have. But I'll give you an example. I was giving one of these talks a while ago, actually at MIT in Boston. And when I came back from Boston, my wife had to pick me up at the airport because we hadn't yet decided what kind of car I could lease. We is a misnomer there, of course, but because when the lease on my old car expired, my wife asked me if I was going to get another convertible. And I said that, yeah, I think so. I had 9. Luckily for me, I had an old one in high school, and I've always had convertibles since. And she said to me, well, you know, I don't think that's such a good idea because, you know, convertibles aren't safe. and the kids are getting bigger. Which, if you think about it, okay, convertibles probably aren't safe. I don't think canvas is as good if you flip a car, although it's not like we have mountains here that you're going to roll off of. But how about this one? Convertibles are not safe, and the kids are getting bigger. So when they were smaller, we didn't care? I mean, I know we paid a lot of money in braces, and we have to get a tutor, and now music lessons, but... Or is it now, you know what? They're kind of cute. We like them. We're getting used to them. Or maybe it's that they're almost out of the house. We don't want more. Whatever it is, it didn't really make any sense on an intellectual level. But on an emotional level, it was Mama Bear, who's not here, is worried about the baby bears, and Papa Bear is, of course, sitting on the couch feeding them peanuts and beer, right? Because Papa Bear didn't care. So we hadn't yet decided on what kind of car I could get. So my wife had to pick me up at the airport. So here we are driving back on Lejeune Road, just right across the street from Ocean Bank, by the way. And there's a billboard on the other side of the road, and there's a car on it, a convertible, a beautiful convertible with the top down on a beach. And the headline says, "Tan safely." And so I say to my wife, who was driving, "Hey, sweetie, what if I get one of those?" And she drives, she goes, "Oh, that's fine, they're safe." Over. Does anybody know what kind of convertible it was? A Volvo convertible, exactly right. What does my wife know about Volvos or cars in general? Zip. And by the way, she's much smarter than I am. She has many more degrees, postgraduate degrees, all of that. She doesn't know what car. All she knows is where the key goes and where the gas goes. That's pretty much it. My wife hates cars. But she knew Volvos were safe. Why? Huh? The ad campaign. Because Volvo had been telling us that they're safe. We don't know if they're safe or not. By the way, a week or two later in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article from the NHSTA, the National Highway Safety Transit, Joan Claybrook's organization. The top 50 safest cars in America. How many Volvos on the list? Just take a guess. 2, 3. There was actually one. It was number 18. It was not the convertible. It was the station wagon. Number 1 was a Suburban. It was, by the way, it was the safest cars to if you get in an accident. Not the safest cars to avoid an accident, or not to cause an accident when you're on your cell phone in your SUV going through the four-way stop. It was the safest car if you get in an accident. They didn't have Hummers then, but it was a Suburban, a Tahoe, and clearly the more metal you have around you, the better off you are, which means we should all drive either dumpsters or school buses because we'd have metal. But Volvo has been selling safety. So for my wife, the kids would be safe in a Volvo. Now, are we all adults here? Are there any children? No, okay. When I took the car home, I test drove it and I was driving it around, and everybody has friends, the guys who think they know about cars, and they all come around and look at it and say stuff like, "Does it have a Hemi?" Which, by the way, is great marketing. Does anyone know what a Hemi is? But if you drive one of those Chryslers, people ask you, I say I'd buy one, I get 2. Right? I got the one with 2 Hemis. People have no idea what they are. So all these guys come around and they're looking at the car, and someone says, "Wow, I didn't know Volvo made a convertible," and it was turbocharged. Does anyone know what that means? I said, "I didn't know Volvo made a turbocharged convertible." Make an emotional connection before you make an intellectual connection. Stop talking about how many cubic yards of garbage you pick up, and talk about the benefits of a beautiful front stoop, the health benefits. Stop talking about how many animals per day, per minute, and talk about saving lives, the joy of it, how important it is. Look for the emotional connections. Here's an example of most advertising. There's the page in the magazine, and we have the headline, whatever the headline says. Thank you. And then we have a picture, right? And then we have some body copy, and then we have a logo. Looks familiar, correct? And then what happens? The client says, "Oh, by the way, we're having a big sale. We should tell people that." Okay, so we put here 50% off. And then the guy says, "Oh, wait, we have 35 locations. We need to let people know where those locations are." So we add all the locations. Can you all see it over there? Okay, good. And then, well, se habla